Still waiting for some body work to get done on the C10 here. So while the bed's still off, today we're gonna try and get the dual tanks working. Right now, only the passenger side tank is working. This side is just full of old fuel. The switch seems to work. Hold on. If we push it to left hand, driver's side, and hold it, the gauge moves like it's supposed to, but it just goes all the way to way past full. It's not accurate, but at least the gauge is working. Put it back to right and the gauge drops. So what I'm thinking, we're gonna drop the tanks. I got 2 new sending units, new hoses, and a new selector valve, which is tucked up under here somewhere. We'll get there. We'll get started dropping them tanks. Let's check it out. Give us a little bit extra room, jack up the front, put it on ramps. First thing I'm gonna do is get these old hoses off. That way I can get all that old fuel out of this tank. Hopefully the hoses don't fight too much. That wasn't bad at all. Ooh, this tank is a little bit rusty on the inside. I've never tried one of these before, but I found it at Harbor Freight. It's a siphoning hose of some kind, and there's a little ball in the end, and you just jiggle it. No, that's kind of cool. Keep her going. There it goes. That is some nasty old fuel right there. Am I doing something wrong? It's not working very well. Oh, there it goes. Don't move. Now there was a lot of oil, well, a little bit of oil at the bottom of this bucket, but that is some nasty looking fuel. That's probably 3 or 4 years old. All right, hold that. I think I need another bucket. There must have been a lot more in here than I thought, because we already filled that bucket. It's still coming. Let me go get that diesel can. What is leaking? Is this bucket? Oh no. Faulty bucket, there's a crack. We're about there though. All right, we got about 10 gallons out of it. Should be good enough to drop the tank. Good job. Got 8 bolts on each side for the tanks, 4 in the back, 4 in the front. And then the interesting thing is gonna be getting the hoses off of the sending unit and the wires. But we'll see if we can get some flexibility out of them by dropping the tank first. There's one half. Now I gotta crawl underneath and try and get the front. There's the other 4 bolts, and then I got a jack kinda supporting the fuel tank. All right, that should free up the tank. 3 hoses and a couple wires. That should most definitely be good enough. We'll pop that wire off like that, I reckon. I don't know. And then find out where this one grounds. Let's try and get these hoses off, because that could be an issue. Getting to be a real pain. There's one. Oh, that hose just ripped. It did too. That stuff's so brittle. I guess I should have just planned on getting hoses from the beginning. Oh well, those will be easy enough to find. This saves time anyway. And then I'll cut this purple wire and figure it out later. There's a little bracket right here. I think that's what we're holding up on. Oh, well, I think that was supposed to just be a threaded hole, but it ripped right out of the plastic. But we are free, so we should be able to pull the tank. There it be. Now onto the good tank, the side that works. I'm gonna rip this side out real quick. Same exact process, just flipped. I'm not gonna worry about draining the fuel on this side. It's actually very low. Both tanks are now out, but that's not what I actually wanted to get done today. What I'm going to do is get the frame cleaned up and painted, and the tanks had to kind of be out of the way to get that done. So I'm gonna get working on that. That'll be a separate video. Now I did unbolt these brackets for these fuel lines just so I can kind of move them around so I can paint stuff. Before I do finish up on the fuel stuff for today, I'm gonna pull out both these sending units, have a look at the inside of the tanks. This one actually looks pretty new. I think this one's gonna be okay. But the old tank that had that old nasty varnish of fuel in it, might need to get a new tank. We'll see what this one looks like. They're actually not that bad, $80 to $100, so. All right, here's what I come up with. I'm not trying any harder to get this lock ring off. It's being a pain in the butt. And just based on how this filler neck looks, I'm just gonna replace this tank. This one looks fine. I was able to shine a light in here. Looks brand new. Don't have the time to try and clean it and do all that when it's just easier to buy a new one. We'll figure on that. I'll order one up. That way when I finish up this video next weekend, hopefully, it'll be here and we can get that done. I just went to order, I just went to order a fuel tank, and because I have a long bed, I was assuming it was the 20 gallon, but what'd you do?
I got a bullseye.
No, you didn't. From standing right there?
Yeah, you don't believe me?
I believe you. You did good. Anyway, when I seen the 20-gallon tanks, they looked like they were about as long as the Titanic, so I wanted to measure it. A 16-gallon is 40-something inches, and a 20-gallon is like 50-something inches. And right about there, and we're at about 42 inches. So, 16-gallon tank it is. I'm gonna get that ordered up. We're back. We got our brand new fuel tank in, and I was out all morning picking up what apparently was the last rubber fuel line in the land. I needed quarter, 5/16, and 3/8, but nobody had 5/16, so we're gonna have to make do with what we have. Shouldn't be too big of an issue. We're gonna head underneath and check out the selector valve, the old one, see how it's set up. I already dropped the passenger side exhaust because the selector valve is tucked up right there, so plenty of access. So here's what we got. The selector valve is up here. And to get this truck running, it looks like they just took the main supply line off the passenger side and bypassed the valve and just sent it right up to the front. That is why the driver tank doesn't work. That line is cracked. That's the main supply line, return line, also broken. Like I said, we don't have a return, but we'll still hook it up anyway, so it looks right. We'll get rid of this bypass. And the valve itself is bolted on top of the frame rail. There's two bolts up here, and then the vapor line is just completely separate. It's down here, and then it tees off. So the way this thing works, you got a supply and return from both tanks on this side, and then one set of supply and return going to the engine, and then whenever you hit the switch, this thing does the valve thing and pulls from one tank or the other. Well, once the tank's out, it's actually really easy access to the selector valve bolts. There they are. Now I'm gonna start cutting all these lines. I got all new fuel lines, so we should be all right. Try to keep that one intact. Since I don't have any 5/16, shoved a bolt in there to block it off. That's kind of funny. Oh wow, that actually popped right off. Cool. So we'll be able to salvage those 5/16 lines. Let's see about unplugging it. Now I'm just gonna cut all these old ones off. Now the vapor line can stay in place. We don't need to mess with that. And then this piece of 3/8 line is what I guess the previous owner did to bypass that selector valve. So we're gonna get that out of here. There we go. All right, I salvaged them two 5/16 lines and threw them on the new selector valve. We'll get this new one bolted up. Now I didn't tighten it all the way, that way there's some play with this bracket, because we need to get these lines situated first. So I'm just gonna kind of set these in here. Then we'll go underneath with our new fuel line and hook everything up. All right, I hooked up the return up here. Now we have the main 3/8 line supply, and we just need a short little bit to go from the hard metal line to the selector valve. All right, I ran that short piece of hose and I actually tightened it up too. So now I'll work on the passenger side lines, starting with the return, 5/16. And then same thing, just gonna make a short piece of 3/8 line to do that. Something like that. We got passenger side and driver side supply and return all hooked up. Looking good, everything's tight. Now we just gotta hook up the main lines going to the engine from the selector valve. Now these metal lines here, they don't seem to like be pointing the right way, and they're fixed because there's brackets right here. So they're kind of, that's where they are. The 3/8 one won't be a problem because I have fuel line for that. Now the 5/16, I'm gonna try and make a 1/4 inch fuel line fit on here, or I'm just gonna cap it off because there is no return anyway. I just kind of want it to look nice. We'll get this plugged in quick. Everything is now hooked up. I ended up using a piece of 5/16 that I had from something or another. It doesn't quite reach all the way, but for the 5th time it doesn't work. So it's just to play the part. Looks good. So we're done under here. Everything's hooked up, plugged in, tight. All the clamps are tight. Everything's pointing in the right direction. So let's get on out of here. Got the bracket tightened here for the hard lines going to the driver's side. Now we're pretty much ready to hang the tanks back up. We'll start with the passenger side. This one's ready to go. We just need to drop our new pickup in there quick. Hopefully this goes half decent. Should probably get some of this cleaned up so it doesn't fall in the tank. Thing looks a little crappy. This tank looks to be in really good shape. Glad I didn't buy two, although they would match and that would make me feel better, but oh well. I got a new O-ring. New O-ring. I lubed it up with some petroleum jelly. Yeah, these are a little bit different. The tab here is like straight back from the fuel lines, where this one is off at an angle. We'll make it work. Got a new lock ring, so that's cool. This tank's ready to hang. I took off the plastic shield thing that goes around it, kind of like this one has on. Should be ready to go. We'll see how these line up once I have it hung up, and we'll get the bolts started. Well, I had this tank pretty much fully installed. Then I made an important discovery. These pickups are side specific. Here's the one that I just pulled out, and it has the ground tab at an angle, and that's gonna work out perfectly for the driver's side tank. The passenger side tank, which I'm working on now, has that tab straight up like it should be. Boop. Good to know, good to know. So I'm gonna throw this back in here. Cool, take two. I got this side completely installed. All the hose clamps are on there. I let the tank down a little bit so I could get to all of them before I tighten it up for good. So this side's done. Got all the wires plugged in the ground. I got the new sending unit in the new tank. We just have to transfer the straps. I don't know how these are gonna go. Got these transferred over. I'm gonna leave them loose though, in case I have to move the brackets around. Got the driver tank pretty well installed. Everything's hooked up again, except for the wiring. What I ended up doing, I tightened the front strap right away, kind of about where I thought it would be, and I left this one loose because you can actually adjust it when it's installed. I'm gonna see how well this lines up, and then that way I'll actually be able to move the tank a little bit. We'll be able to bolt this down fast. Tightening the front now. Now I'm just tightening up the ground wire, and we should be good under here. Both tanks are now completely installed. Now, real quick, I'm gonna clean up, get this passenger side exhaust back in, and then we'll get it off the ramps, throw some gas in the tank, then fire it up, see what happens. Back on the ground, ready to go. Got 5 gallons of gas for each side. Now on this side, I gotta use this stupid gas can. Yeah, that works pretty nice. Look at that. Stay. Got some fuel in both tanks. Now, pretty quiet in here. So, turn on the key. Should be showing about 1/3 of a tank. They're 16 gallons each, and they're showing about 1/4. Now, when I flip the switch, I want to hear for any click-clacking, make sure that selector valve's working. Ooh, I heard something. The gauge moved a little bit, but it's still showing like 1/4. I'd say that's accurate. It's saying the right tank has a little bit more, which I think is true, since the left tank is brand new. I don't know if you can hear that. Here, let me stick you under here. Seems to be working. All right, let's fire it up, do a little leak test. Come on. It's been a while. And I got it switched to the left tank, driver's side, because that's the new one that never worked before, so. Looks nice and dry so far. I don't think we're having any leaks. In all reality, a mechanical fuel pump's only pulling like 6 or 7 PSI, at least the one I have is. So there's not a ton of pressure moving through the lines. Let's go ahead and switch it to right and see what happens. Still running. Some crap up here in the fuel filter. We'll have to change that out right away. Nice. Shut her down. Now I did get new hoses and elbows for the filler necks there. That's all this stuff here. But I'm gonna wait till the bed's back on for that, just to make sure I cut them to the correct length and everything like that. I think this tank might have got shifted a little bit, but it's looking good. That's a huge thing off the checklist for me for the C10, getting the dual tanks working. They never did for me. The ultimate test is when the truck's back on the road, filling them both up completely and letting the one tank go almost empty and then switching to the other one and make sure we're still running. But that's down the road a ways. We're almost done with body work. Paint's coming soon. I can't wait. That is going to wrap it up for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Take it easy. See you in the next one.